Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of my Sunderland 11. As always, we are in association with the Sunderland Food Bank and the Sunderland Fans Museum. Please go and check out them in the link in the description below. Two great causes, so please go and help out. With me, a very special guest. We have a Sky Sports News presenter and, most importantly, massive Sunderland fan, Tom White. Tom, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. How's your sort of lockdown been now? Third one.
It's been all right for me. I've been lucky. I've worked all the way through, even from the first one, which a lot of people haven't been able to do. And with this last one, the one currently, the nursery stayed open, which meant my son wasn't, massively bored. He was able to go to nursery with his friends because the difference between this one and the summer one is he wouldn't be able to play outside all day. It's too cold, too wet, too miserable. So I can't complain. A lot of people have got it a lot worse than me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a lot of people who are sort of, are locked up inside their house. And my next question really was, did you have to do any homeschooling or anything? But since your son's nursery's open, he seems pretty happy.
Yeah, see, he's only 3.5, so he's not at school yet. If he'd been a year older, I would have had to do the homeschooling, but I've thankfully avoided that.
Good. Also, everyone knows your face and sort of where you work. How's sort of work different? Because I noticed on TV, that there used to be sort of two presenters sit next to each other. Now there's only one. So how's work different?
It's to make sure that social distancing can be properly observed. That's one reason why there's only one of us on set. And if we do have guests, they're a long way away. They used to be right next to you. It looks weird looking back at that because it's been so long now. But now they're still on set with you, but a long way away. And in the actual studio, there's so few people now because it's we've got to encourage only essential travel, so you need the minimum people in work as you really need to make the show happen. So you used to have trouble getting your car parked, 7 stories of a car park. You now never have to go above the second floor, whereas you used to struggle to get a space. And actually in the offices, it's like a ghost town, really. Just the minimum amount of people needed are allowed in.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, you're all, it is on TV, so to really abide by the rules is very important. So you do always have to sort of double check it and make sure you are, because you are there to the public, really, and you are sort of the public figures. So you've got to just make sure and double check that you are abiding by the rules as best you can, really.
Yeah, you've got to set the example. It's no good saying to the whole country, stay at home and protect the NHS and make sure you do your social distancing, if we're on TV, 4 of us all right next to each other, and the offices and studio is absolutely packed full of people. That's a terrible example, especially when it's not needed. There's a show on right now as we're speaking that's done from home, because you can do that on some shows as well.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, it's good. It's good to hear though. It's going all right, and it's still going on. But I just want to take times a little bit further back to sort of better times. Still sticking with Sky Sports News, is when I was 9 years old and Paolo Di Canio was appointed as the manager. My dad sent an email in, and to my shock, you read it out. And I don't think you're too pleased that I was up sort of late at night. Do you have any sort of memory from reading that email out?
I remember it. I told you it was past your bedtime.
Yeah.
It was me and Charlotte Jackson, who then became Charlotte Coleman, so Chris Coleman's wife. At the time they weren't, but they are now. I remember, and I remember, I think your dad sent in a picture of you because you'd been eating your sister's Easter eggs. And it was definitely your sister's Easter egg, because the picture was the Easter egg was pink.
Nah, it was my mum's Easter egg. I don't have any sisters.
Oh right, okay. Oh well,
I don't know. Yeah.
Your mum's Easter egg then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it all happened. Really, my dad was hoping that they'd show the picture on Sky Sports News, but I don't know if they're allowed to or anything like that. But
I don't think because of your age we weren't allowed to, but it would have been quite
probably.
fun.
Yeah, it would have been. But yeah, and my mum came downstairs and watched it. And she was just like, I agree with them, Matthew. Why are you up this late? You know, my little brother's the same. You know, he's 9 years old, and 2 or 3 in the morning we find him shouting his head off. You know, playing Fortnite. So it's we've always been the sort of kids to stay up late, really. But I remember I reminded you of it at Wickham away, and you were like
Yeah,
almost shocked that you were like you know, this was you, you know.
yeah. I remember.
Um,
I do remember it well. Actually, it was just a bit of fun, wasn't it? And also, when your club get a new manager, you're not going to bed until you've seen all of the reaction to it. So it was fair
that
enough.
is,
And then yeah, that Wickham away game, that was actually a really good away day because I noticed that at Wickham they have that little like tent for the away
yeah,
fans, and they really looked after us. The game was, I mean, we equalised in the last minute with Duncan Watmore, and there was George Honeyman trying to take on uh, every Wickham player for a fight after he'd
yeah,
been after he'd already been subbed. But it was actually, even though we only got a point, and obviously it was a 1-1 draw, it was actually a really good away day. That one, they looked after us well.
yeah. I do remember it really wasn't. It's just sort of a shame we never won there. You know, the season after we did lose, but it was. That's what I really enjoyed about sort of League One away days is that you do get those sort of. I think people are happy to have you. That's what I found. You know, in League One, people love welcoming you to their stadium. You know, whereas in the
But
Premier League, it was sort of sit in that little corner.
yeah, so well, some clubs were good to Wickham were good to us. I remember going to Accrington. Accrington were good to us. I thought that Rochdale were good to us. Oxford as well, but then some clubs not so much. I mean, Portsmouth certainly I don't think welcomed us particularly well. Some clubs just. I mean, Charlton I thought were the worst for that. I'm not saying that makes them a bad club at all, but in terms of looking after the away fans, some clubs, like you say, I think they were quite happy that there were so many away fans there, and you can spend money with the bar and everything like that. But some clubs just were like, we could do without this hassle.
Yeah, I think yeah, it is a bit of a difficult one, really. I mean, as you say, yeah, clubs, Portsmouth and yeah, you get the other clubs, but I found that some fans in League One, like they are really nice, like how we say Oxford. I mean, I went to Oxford away, and there were literally Oxford fans that pulled up and sort of next to our car and just wanted to have a chat with us.
Yeah,
Wanted to talk about Sunderland, and you never really get that in the Premier League. So it's a nice little change.
yeah. I agree with that. And even in the Championship as well, God, QPR, it's as though they wanted to sell us the tickets, but didn't want us in the ground. It
Mm.
was and they were like everyone was late in because they were body searching everybody, and it's yeah, some places aren't particularly welcoming, but most of them have been. And you remember the ones that have welcomed you well. You tend to kind of like quite have a little soft spot for them. Certainly the grounds anyway.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I think we'll just take things even further back now for you, and just a little bit more about you. Sort of, where did you grow up, and how did you become a Sunderland fan?
I grew up in Alnwick, so in Northumberland, and it was very easy. My mum and dad, both football fans and both Sunderland fans. So, and in fact, my whole family, on my mum's side and my dad's side, all like football, all support Sunderland. So it's very easy, even though I grew up in very much a black and white area rather than red and white. Me and my sister were always told, you support Sunderland. That's just the way it is. She, in the end, she didn't really get that into football, but she does still know she's a Sunderland fan and will look out for the results. That's just the way it is. If your parents support the same team, they've done something wrong if their children don't support that team as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with my dad, there was no other option really. From a very young age, he always put me in a Sunderland shirt. And to be honest, I think Sunderland's a club that it suits a certain person's personality as well. I think it's not just sort of a team you can just support on the side. It just does very much become your life, really.
I think that's the Northeast. I think not just the Northeast. I think Liverpool and Everton and Tranmere, that area. I think it's all the same. Glasgow certainly. I think there are certain hotspots of real passion, and not just clubs of the size I've just said. And well, although Tranmere are now League Two, but you think of Grimsby fans and Scunthorpe fans, they've got that sort of passion as well. But certainly for us in the Northeast, it's not just a hobby or go and watch the football to be entertained. It's like we need to get a good result today, or the rest of the weekend, maybe even the whole week, is a write-off.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that, really. And losing to losing to Shrewsbury Town, obviously did not put any smiles on anyone's face, and I think we're still sort of feeling the effects of that. But it does become part of your life. And really, my second question is, before we start going through your team, and if you could just put into your own words, if it isn't a difficult enough question, is what does Sunderland AFC mean to you?
The best thing I can say to kind of explain it is, I remember the season we went down under David Moyes. During that season, that's when I found out that I was going to be a dad. Now my son ended up, he was born, but he basically was born and we were relegated. I think he was born just after the Bournemouth game where we went down. And, I watched the last game of the season against Chelsea, still in the hospital with him. So when I found out I was going to be a dad, I was so happy. And I remember thinking, the day after I found out, we were playing West Ham away. And I remember driving into work with that. I'd usually have that feeling of driving into work thinking, right, huge game for Sunderland today. I'm going to watch it at work, and God, if we win, I'm going to be so happy. If we lose, I'm going to be devastated. I'm kind of dreading it a bit in case we lose. And I remember on this occasion, I was driving in thinking, I'm so happy that I'm going to be a dad. So from now on, it won't really matter that much if Sunderland win or lose, because I'll only care about the fact that I'm going to have what turned out to be a son, but I'm going to have a son or daughter soon. So that's all that's going to matter. Right? I'm not going to be as bothered about Sunderland as I was. Well, I can't tell you how wrong I was, because that game away at West Ham was 0-0 until about the 94th minute. And I remember thinking, this is a good point. Away at West Ham, this is actually a good point. And then I think it was Winston Reid scored in the 94th minute. And it looked like there was... what was his name? Argentinian. Jonathan Cagliari looked offside for West Ham. And it was before VAR, and we lost 1-0. And I remember at work punching the desk and storming off. So this, obviously, I wasn't on air at the time, obviously. Soccer Saturday was on.
Yeah.
Punched the desk, stormed off. Everyone in the office turned around to see what had gone on. And that was the proof that actually it doesn't matter what else happens in your life, the Sunderland result will always have the same effect on you, no matter what, because it shouldn't bother me as much as it does. I love my life, very happy with my life, love my job. Got my son and my girlfriend, very, very happy. But Sunderland will still either make my weekend or ruin my weekend.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic way to put it. And I was at that West Ham game, and obviously, with where I live, I went to school with a lot of West Ham fans. So I had to go into school the next day with all these West Ham fans, laughing really. And I was known at school as pretty much the Sunderland fan. So that was, that was. I remember. Do you know? I remember in that game, Wabi Kazri was put through 1-on-1, and
0-0.
And he put it straight at the keeper, and I just couldn't believe it. But yeah, I was at the game, and there was the only time when we actually got to go to the London Stadium. and it was. I just remember it was quite an interesting stadium to go to because it didn't really feel like a football stadium. You know,
I've been, but as a warm-up event for the Olympics, I went there. Sky Sports News entered a team in a 100-meter relay race
oh wow,
as a
yeah.
kind of test event for the Olympics. So I've been there to actually run, but I've actually never ever been there to watch a game. So I don't know, but I know the West Ham fans aren't particularly keen on it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't keen on it either. You know, you walk in there, you can still see the running track around. It's not really a football stadium, but you know they've got it sort of for a long time now, so they've got to really make the most of it. But yeah, that
That
game
that
was
that, that test event was quite funny actually because we mentioned Charlotte Coleman earlier. She was in the female team. We had a male team, and we were against each other. There were 8 teams, and me and her were both running the third leg against each other. And she kept saying the whole build up, even once the race had started, and the first leg was being run, which I remember was Pete Graves against Charlie Webster, and Pete Graves gave it to Rob Wharton, who gave it to me. But the whole way around, Charlotte Jackson was saying, "Don't drop the baton, don't drop the baton, you're going to drop the baton." Anyway, Rob Wharton hands the baton to me. I run off, and out the corner of my eye, I see Charlotte Jackson drop the baton. It's
I thought
brilliant.
I thought you were about to say you dropped the button, but
No,
she
she
dropped.
did. After all that, she dropped the baton.
Oh dear, did you win the race though?
We came second. We came second
Oh.
out of 8, which is not bad because the team that won were significantly younger, and I think they might have even been professional athletes. They won by a mile, but we were fairly happy with our second place.
No, I think, yeah, of course, you did well to get that. You did well to get that. So then, I think we'll go through your all-time favourite Sunderland 11. So,
Yeah.
you start us off with who you have in goal.
In goal is Mart Poom. It's a tough one in goal because people of my age would always say Thomas Sorensen, and no one would ever argue with me if I said Thomas Sorensen. And I think that's who most people would go for. And he was brilliant. He was so good. We've been lucky at some stages. Remember, my uncle always used to say to me, "We've always had good goalkeepers," and that was until the season when we went down from the Championship recently. We've always had good goalkeepers. When I first started watching, it was Tony Norman. Alec Chamberlain was okay. Lionel Perez was a bit erratic, but we still loved him. I think probably because of his French flair. And then, of course, Sorensen was amazing. But Mart Poom, whenever there was a one-on-one, I was always so relaxed. Thought, well, it's just going to hit Mart Poom because nothing's getting past Mart Poom. I can't remember him ever making a mistake. I'm sure he did, but I can't remember him ever making a mistake. He was so dominant from crosses and corners, which makes you again feel very confident when he's playing. And of course, he scored the best header I've ever seen against Derby, against his old club. So that adds to it as well. And that'll be an obvious reason to say why I've chosen him over Thomas Sorensen. But I just felt so comfortable with Mart Poom in goal in the playoff semi-final against Crystal Palace, which would have been the 93, 94 season. Sorry, 2003, 2004 season, I think. In the penalty shootout, we kept missing, and he kept saving them until eventually our kind of, in that sense, luck run out, and Jeff Whitley missed, and I think it was Michael Hughes who scored his penalty. But Poom did everything to keep us in it, and I couldn't believe it when we let him go and replaced him. When Mick McCarthy got us up, he let Poom and Myra go and replaced them. But Mart Poom, he felt unbeatable to me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. He also, yeah, of course, that scored that goal against Derby, and obviously we had that stat. If Danny Graham stayed for a few more games, Mart Poom would have had a better goals to game ratio than Danny Graham. But yeah, of course, yeah, that's a great choice. A few people have picked Mart Poom before, and you can understand it because I think people do forget what a good goalie he actually was.
Yeah, he was brilliant for us. He was the most commanding one we've ever had. But Sorensen is a close second. He was he was very, very good. And if Pickford was able to stay for longer, had we not gone down, he might have overtaken him as well. But Mart Poom for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, I do agree as well. A lot of good goalies, we've had at the club. All right, then. So we'll go to your fullbacks. Go to your right back first. So have you gone with it right back?
Did I go with John Kay?
Yes, you did.
Did go with John Kay, right? Because that's a tough area, because I loved Chris Makin and I loved Phil Bardsley. I could have easily had either of those two, but John Kay was just like he's the hardest player we've ever had, and that includes Kevin Ball. He was just solid. It was always very impressive to me because he was so tough, and he was a good player as well. You know, don't forget that. But he was so tough, and the famous story. I was there. We're playing at home to Birmingham. I think we won 1-0. Lee Howie with a left-footed curler from the edge of the area. I think it was that game. But either way, John Kay broke his leg, right? Tried to carry on with a broken leg. That is, I mean, ridiculous. And just to show how hard he was and that the pain didn't bother him that he'd broken his leg, they put him on a stretcher and he started rowing as though he was like, rowing a boat, right? Now, if that was me, I'd broken my leg, I'd need the gas and air, I'd probably be crying, I'd be screaming. And he was just like, oh, I wanted to play on. Oh, let's have a bit of fun and row off the pitch. So how can he not get in? But Bardsley and Makin come very close.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Of course,
and they were both hard as nails as well.
Yeah, they were. I memean, John Kay didn't he get promoted from the third division championship as well with Sunderland? I think so.
Yeah, he will have. He will have. I mean, that even that was slightly. My first season, kind of into football, was when I just turned 7. It was a 1990-91 season, where we were in what is now the Premier League, which was the first division at the time, Division 1, and we got relegated. John Kay was there then. Whether he started in the 3rd tier or the 2nd tier, I'm not sure, but he was the first right back that I knew at Sunderland.
Yeah, cool. No, cool. All right, so we'll go now to your left back. Who have you got left back?
I've gone for Mickey Gray. That was due to, I mean, his longevity for a start, the fact that he's a Sunderland fan for a start. But the thing that gives him the edge is that he played for England while he was playing for Sunderland. You can't forget that. He had an amazing partnership on the left-hand side with Alan Johnson. He had an amazing partnership on the left-hand side with Julio Arca. He linked up quite well with Kevin Kilban, and he gave everything for Sunderland. So he wins it. I'm always really, really tempted to put in Danny Rose. It's a season he had with us. I've never seen anything like it. He was when we first signed him, I thought he's going to be a squad player. What's the point in using a Premier League loan on a squad player? Well, I was wrong, because he was brilliant. He was. I've never seen anything like him actually when he played for us. He's probably the best left back I've ever seen at the Stadium of Light, including people we've played against. I've never seen anyone play as well as him in a game that I've been to, as he did away at Newcastle in the 3-0 under Canio. But he was only there for a season, and he slightly tarnished his reputation because he joined Newcastle on loan last season. So Mickey Gray beats him, and Marcus Alonso would be close as well, but he was only there for half a season. So Mickey Gray gets in there.
Yeah, as you say, there's a few honourable mentions as well, but I think Michael Gray, he is obviously a great choice, and he's remembered by so many people. Mostly remembered for for one of the wrong reasons of missing the penalty at Wembley, but that doesn't matter. He said himself that he was at Sunderland for a long time, at his boyhood club as well. And it was a great player as well. I wasn't ever lucky enough to see him play in the flesh, but just to see the sort of even the goals he scored from left back, that incredible cross he put into the box for Niall Quinn, against Newcastle to put on his head.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic player all round, really.
Yeah. I think most people my age would have him in.
Yeah, no, so that's great. He works his way into your team. So we'll move now to your central defenders. Do you want to talk us through each one of them?
Yes, Wes Brown.
Yeah.
The season that we stayed up under Gus Poyet, Wes Brown had already retired from international football, but I was adamant that he should have gone to the 2014 World Cup. I was adamant that he should have been taken out of retirement. He was, he had his injury problems, but when he wasn't injured, it was obvious that he was too good for us. And I'd imagine it was his injuries that meant that he wasn't getting the game time that he would have liked at Manchester United. Because to me, he was Manchester United quality, but playing for Sunderland. It was just his injuries that stopped him. But he was class. He was another one who was hard as nails, won every header, but also maybe because he was comfortable at right back as well, he was very good on the ball, which suited the way Gus Poyet played. He was the first manager that really liked to play out from the back. And Wes Brown's in there simply because he was too good for us.
Yeah, I remember Wes Brown as well. Signed in the 2011 summer, and I just remember him play. Obviously, signed with John O'Shea, and he scored his only goal that season as well at QPR away, and in the last minute as well, we won 3-2.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Yeah, that was a fantastic game, going 2-0 up and then QPR bringing it back to 2-2. We all thought, oh dear, but then with Wes Brown's header, from that corner, that was fantastic. And yeah, Wes Brown, he was a fantastic player as well. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, as you say, just injuries. I think injuries were the sort of downfall to his career, and you could say that about a lot of players as well. Just the constant injuries.
Yeah. But when he was fit, he was just better. He was the best.
Yeah, of course. So we'll move now to his central defensive partner. Who have you got there?
Well, I've gone for Emmerson Thome, but I will explain that one in a minute, because really it should be Jody Craddock. I think Jody Craddock, he was the most just reliable centre back that we've had in my lifetime. So really, it should be him. And when I've picked my 11 before, I have gone with Jody Craddock. So I'll explain why I've gone for Emmerson Thome in a minute. I could have also gone for Steve Bold. He was a rock, a little bit like Wes Brown. He was just too good for us. He'd left Arsenal because he wasn't getting enough game time, but he was definitely good enough for Arsenal still. But he was playing for Sunderland, so very similar to Wes Brown. I could have gone with John O'Shea as well, who gave everything to the club. I could have gone with Gary Bennett. I could have put Kevin Ball at centre back because he did play there for us as well, although he moved into central midfield. The reason I've gone for Emmerson Thome is the easiest explanation ever. My son's name's Emmerson and my name's Tom. That's why he's in.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think he was signed from Chelsea, wasn't he? And yeah, and my dad was telling me a game where he was signed from Chelsea, and Chelsea fans were quite upset to let him go. And we actually went down to Chelsea, played Chelsea away, and he was getting a good reception from the Chelsea fans. And then he helped to assist 2 goals, and we beat them 4-2. So I don't think he was well liked after that game. But yeah, no, your reasoning's absolutely spot on there. That's fair enough for Emmerson Thome.
It should be Craddock. It should be Craddock, but I'm having that.
No, it's your 11. It's your 11.
And Emmerson Thome is spelt the way, you see, normally if your name is Emmerson, it's spelt with 1 M. But my son is named after my granddad, and my granddad had 2 M's. So that is even spelt the way my son is spelt, which is quite rare.
No, that's fair enough. Always want to make people stand out the best, I guess. So yeah, so that's your back 4 and goalkeeper. We move on now to your midfield. So we'll start with who you have on the left wing.
Left wing is Julio Arca. We haven't had a lot of. I mean, in the Peter Reid days, and it worked. It was a lot of hard-working players who you wouldn't call them particularly skillful. You'd call them players who were getting. Peter Reid and Bobby Saxton just got the best out of them. Julio Arca was so skillful, like we'd never seen before. He'd never ever use his right foot. That used to annoy me, right? But he was magic. The ball would stick to his left foot. He'd always pass it to the right person. And even though he wasn't that quick, he would beat a player like they weren't even there. And he could score a goal as well. And when he went to left back, I think he did even better later in his career at left back. But he was magic. He was different to what we'd ever had at that time. And when I said that most players just were hard working, he was just as hard working as the rest. He just had the skill to go with it. Yeah,
that's fair enough. I think someone who came all the way from Argentina, and the main thing, and I say this quite a lot in these episodes, is not only do you want a good player to come to the club, but you also want them to buy into the area. You want them to buy into the culture and buy into the passion. And he did that. I think he still stayed in the Northeast after leaving Sunderland, and even after leaving Middlesbrough as well. I think he went to South Shields for a few years and he still lived in the area. I think he's gone back to Argentina now for a bit, but you just see someone like that who had no idea who Sunderland was and came and just bought into the area completely.
Yeah, he understood the passion, and he had the passion to go with it, as well as being just he was very, very good. I was devastated when he left. I don't mind him going to Middlesbrough, to be honest. I wouldn't have wanted him to go to Newcastle. I don't mind him going to Middlesbrough, but he is. Sunderland fans just love it. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's fair enough. So we'll move over to the person you got on the right wing. So would you like to tell us who you got there?
Yeah, I've got someone out of position. I've gone with Don Hutchinson, who he did actually have a season on the right wing for us. He's not a winger; he's an attacking central midfielder. But I want him in the side. The season where he was with us, or a couple of seasons it might have been, he scored goals from midfield, which we needed. He didn't complain when he was put on the right wing. His free kicks were good as well. When we signed him, I was so desperate to sign him, and he had to choose between us and I think it might have been Charlton, maybe. And all the rumours were he's going to Charlton. Yeah, he wants to be in London, and his family want to be in London. And he signed for us, and that came as a bit of a surprise. And he didn't let us down at all. And we've had a lot of players who I think we paid £2.5 million for him and sold him £5 million. So we actually made a profit on him, which is quite rare for Sunderland even now. He was very good. He's out of position here, but I needed to get him in the side. I could have gone with Steve Malbronk, who could play in all sorts of positions. So that was a consideration. I loved Matty Piper, but he didn't play enough to pick him. So it's Don Hutchinson.
Yeah, well, I think Don Hutchinson was only actually at Sunderland for one season. He had a bit like a Yunus Kabul sort of career at Sunderland, where he was there for a season, played a few games of the next season, and then left. He went off to West Ham, and we've actually met him near around where we live. Well, my dad did, and the conversation that they had. Don Hutchinson told my dad that he was having the best season of his career at Sunderland. I think he won Player of the Year as well that season for Sunderland as well. He's having a fantastic season. And West Ham came in and just wanted to double his money. And Don Hutchinson said, if at any point in life, if any employer doubles your money, I don't understand anyone who won't take it. But he did say to Sunderland, offer me 7,000 more and offer me a new contract and I'll stay. That's all he wanted. And so the chief executive at the time didn't do that. So he went off to West Ham, and he said, financially it was a better choice, but he said footballing wise, he said that was the worst decision he ever made. he ever made, because his career was never the same after that.
I think he may have been promised a new deal as well at Sunderland, which never came, and I don't think that would have helped. But he scored against Newcastle as well, and I think he was a Newcastle fan as a kid. But you wouldn't have thought it by the way he played for us and the way he celebrated against Newcastle. I know it's different because he never played for them, but he was excellent for us. He was a big miss once he went.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, obviously with the one season that he played, it just shows you don't need a handful of seasons to really prove yourself. But I think it's that what sort of one season. Yeah, of course, winning even player of the year when you have players like Niall Quinn and Kevin Phillips in the team as well. And I think a lot of people just remember that team to have Phillips and Quinn, but you can't forget the likes of Hutchinson and Gray in there as well, because they're really integral to the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's your wingers done. So we'll move forward to your central midfield. Now, what I see, this is a tough midfield. Like nothing's getting past these lads. So would you like to talk us through who you've gone with there?
Well, this was the hardest one, because although these two players are two of the most obvious players to get in, it's more the problem is who I've had to leave out. So the two I've gone for, first of all, is Kevin Ball, who is my captain, definitely. So I could have put him at centre back, but I mean, throughout my time watching Sunderland, he was, he played centre mid. At least Don Hutchinson played, half a season on the right wing and half a season in the centre midfield. Kevin Ball was a central midfielder, and it's quite similar to John Kay, is in the fact that what really impresses me is the hard players. Because that's just not me. I can't relate to it. I look at them and I think, wow, like I'm impressed by that. He used to go in for these tackles, which he might not get away with today, but I think, God, you're risking, your leg could snap off with that tackle, and all you're doing is possibly trying to win the ball back on the halfway line, and the ball might only go out for a throw in. And it was. And the way that he'd get up for headers as well against people. But don't forget, he was a very, very good passer of the ball. And when it comes to technique, to know if someone's got a good technique, watch how they volley the ball. And he could volley the ball better than anyone I can think of. He was a very, very good player. But the reason why he stood out for me is because he was hard as nails, and also he loved the club from day one, still loves the club now, is still an influential figure at the club. All of the kids look up to him. He's he's a great role model for them, and he was also a very, very good player. So that was easy. He had to go in. It was just where to fit him in.
Absolutely. People who do these episodes, they'll always pick Kevin Ball, but if they can't pick Kevin Ball, they'll always mention him. They'll always find a way to mention him, and that's just where, I mean, it's my dream to sort of have him on one of these episodes as well, to hear what he has to say about, his team. That would be fantastic. But yeah, of course, Kevin Ball, an absolute legend, and still a legend now. Everything about him, even if it's just his handshake now, I mean, everything, about him, he's just everything you ever want in a footballer that comes and plays for your club.
Yeah, he's perfect. He's and still there now.
Of course. So we'll move now to his central midfield partner. So who have you got there?
Again, it's very easy that it's Lee Cattermole, right? He was, again, like Kevin Ball, turned up, loved the club. I think he made a few mistakes on and off the pitch when he first came in, but as he matured, he grew into the leader we always knew he could be, and Steve Bruce certainly knew that he could be, because he had him there at Wigan as a leader, and he made him captain here. And as he matured, we saw the leadership, but also he became a better player, especially under Gus Poyet. Gus Poyet gave him a role to do, and there was no one better. There was no English player better than him at that time in that formation. If England were playing that formation in the 2014 World Cup, Cattermole should have been in there. Cattermole should have been in front of the back four. And when you consider he could have left, he could have gone to Stoke in the January that year, and he said no, because I can lead this team out at Wembley in a League Cup final. And given that that was going to mean so much to him, he didn't leave. He stayed and stayed for a good few years after that. Tells you everything about his character. And when we went down in the Championship, he was injured a lot, which was a big blow for us. But he was there. He wasn't whinging, wasn't complaining. Went to League One. That first season in League One, he was excellent. He even started scoring goals. And when we were on TV against Ipswich, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, he was describing Sunderland as us and we. And, your fans instantly relate to that. And another one like Kevin Ball, his passing ability was brilliant. Like, not just short passes to sideways and backwards. He could spray a ball from left to right, right to left, and put a through ball through to the striker. He was a lot better footballer than people gave him credit for. But Sunderland fans know this. No one listening to this is going to be surprised by what I'm saying. But outside of Sunderland, people don't see that because people never saw him enough. And I think that had Sam Allardyce stayed as England manager for longer than one game, I think Cattermole would have England caps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Cattermole, the fans I've spoken to, they seem to divide a lot of opinion about Cattermole, and some of them say, "Oh, I've never really been sort of a Cattermole fan." For me, Cattermole was he was there at my first ever game at the Stadium of Light. He put a cross in for Kenwyne Jones straight onto his head, and he was there from the very beginning for me to very, very recently, and he's been that one player to stay. And again, everything I ever wanted in a footballer as well: passion, determination, and good footballing quality itself. He was a fantastic footballer. You just see, one of those players that really stood out in the derby. They weren't scared by any occasion. They really did go for it. And I think it was fair enough for Cattermole to leave after the first League One season. I think no one can complain against that, because he had been at the club for that was his 10th season at the club. And yeah, obviously it was very, very sad to see him go, but it's someone you won't ever forget, and he's just the most passionate person. I'm one of my favorite ever players, so I'll always remember him for that.
Yeah, well, that's why those two are in, Cattermole and Ball. But I loved Jan Mvila. He could have been in there. Jan Kirchhoff could have been in there. Alex Ray was really, really good for us as well in central midfield. I could have had Don Hutchinson in central midfield and put someone else on the right, or maybe I'd had three strikers rather than two. But those two had to be in. They had to be in. I would have to rejig the whole formation just to make sure that they were in. So all of those central midfielders I mentioned, and a lot more who were very, very good. Seb Larson as well. I actually loved Key for the season he was here.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't have got into my all-time 11, but we have had some very good central midfielders, but those two, they had to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense, and I completely agree with you there. They're solid players. I think we've ever really had at the club as a midfield partnership. That I think they tear up the leagues. So yeah, that is your midfield done. So we'll move on now to your strike force. And these are the ones who are going to score all the goals, and I don't think they'll have any problems in scoring goals. So would you like to tell us who they are?
The first one's easy. That's Super Kevin Phillips. Obviously, you can't have the records that he's broken for us, and the amount of success he had with us. Like Michael Gray, he played for England while he was playing for us. He was so important when we nearly got promoted in his first season. He was very important in the season we did go up, even though he actually missed a bit of time with injury. His goals to game record was amazing. When we got into the Premier League, everyone was wondering Oh yeah, but it's a big step up to the Premier League. I think he was top scorer. Was he not? Did he not get the golden boot around the whole of Europe that
Mm.
season in the Premier League? And he finished seventh 2 seasons in a row. There's no explanation needed for him. He also still loves the club. He would love to come back as manager. Whether or not that will ever happen, I don't know. I thought he had a good chance when Parkinson got the job. I thought Phillips had a good chance actually of returning to the club, and it would be nice to see him return to the club one day um, in that capacity. But he's an obvious one. I don't think anybody is not going to have. I mean, has anyone ever not picked him?
Well, we had Rory Fallow from the Wise Men Say podcast. He picked a different formation. He only picked one striker, and he picked Nicholas Bentner up front. I think he just came off for a bit of a laugh, really, which is fair enough. But yeah, no, as you say, like most people would pick Kevin Phillips, and similar with Kevin Ball. If they can't pick Kevin Phillips, they will most certainly mention him because
Yeah,
he's one of Sunderland's all-time greatest ever players.
yeah, he had to be in. Bentner, by the way, I've just read his autobiography. He's got a chapter on his time at Sunderland. He doesn't really talk that much about the football. The whole chapter, sorry, is basically about his friendship with Lee Cattermole, which is quite funny. And those two, they were not good together. When I said that Cattermole maybe got a few things wrong on the pitch with his red cards and off the pitch, I think those two together was the biggest problem. But Benton did quite well for us. I mean, he's nowhere near my starting 11, but he did actually do quite well for us, Nicholas Benton. He's often a comedy figure everywhere else, but he's not for us. He was good for us.
Yeah, I mean, he scored against the Mags as well, and when you do that,
He is,
you
yeah.
automatically become a well loved player. Yeah, so that's that for Kevin Phillips, his strike partner.
But this
Talk
was
us through
more
that.
difficult. This was more difficult because Phillips was definitely in. It was who to go along with him. So I've gone for Jermain Defoe. It would have been no one would have argued if I'd gone with Niall Quinn, obviously, especially given that he saved the club as well, not on the pitch, but by getting the Drummondville consortium together. He was amazing as our chairman, Niall Quinn, and brilliant on the pitch as well. So I could have had him. I used to love Danny Dichio as well. Got his name on the back of a shirt. You wouldn't make my favourite 11. Darren Bent was the closest to getting in ahead of Jermain Defoe. He was like, I was desperate for us to sign him, even under Mick McCarthy when we signed Anthony Letalek on loan. We signed Andy Gray for 1.1 million. We signed John Stead for 1.8 million. I thought, put that money together and signed Darren Bent. And when we did sign him, I still thought it was a surprise that we got him because he cost quite a bit of money for us. And he didn't disappoint. That first season, just you knew he was going to score every game. And I was devastated that he'd gone. So he was very close. But Jermain Defoe, another one, scoring in the derby. He scored in a couple of derbies, but scoring in the derby and crying because he knew how much it meant to everybody. The amount of effort that he put in. If you think about it, it would have been easy for him to think, I'm too good for this. I'm too good to be in a relegation battle. But I remember going away to Arsenal, 0-0, on a Dick Advocat, and we stayed up. He was basically playing left back. Never complained once. I'm saying that he's one of the best strikers that we've had in my lifetime. He was pretty much playing left back, never whinged, never complained, just got on with it and played really well. His relationship with Bradley Lowery was something quite special. So again, off the pitch, there's a lot to applaud for him. But he gets in there ahead of Benton Quinn. He was when you saw him get the ball in the box, you were just waiting for the net to bulge. Loved him, still do love him.
Yeah, absolutely. Jermaine Defoe, what a great player. There's so much I just want to sort of say about Defoe, really. But all you have to really say about him is just what what an individual he was, just as a person. Everything about him, he cared about the supporters, you know, and you love to see that as a fan, because you spend all this money going to go follow the team, and something you just see players playing for you that just want to get straight on the coach, you know. But Jermain Defoe genuinely wanted to stop and talk to fans, and he was so good at that, and he's such a good player as well. He's got an OBE as well for all his charity work, which is fantastic. You don't see that with every player. And also, yeah, an all-round just top person, and someone who bought into the area as well, who just invested his time and invested into the culture as well. You know, I've heard you know, someone was in a shop in Newcastle, and then they were trying something on, and they were going, "Oh, I don't know about this, and then there's a voice behind them, and "Oh, looks really nice." That does. They turn around, and it's Jermain Defoe talking to them in the shop. You know, he just wanted to stop and chat with people, you know. And yeah, it's just a top person Jermain Defoe was. And yeah, when he went, I mean, obviously it is fair enough, you know, we got relegated, and whoever put that clause in his contract, whether it was a joint decision, because I think he did sign a new one, didn't he, in the in that last Premier League season. He signed the contract extension to 2019. It was 2016 at the time, I think. And yeah, I'm sure there was a clause in that contract saying, you know, if we do get relegated, you can go for free. But, you know, what a player we did lose there. And you just have to think, you know, he still scored the same amount of Premier League goals as he did the season before, when the season got relegated. So just imagine if he had a bit of a better team and a better manager just around him, you know, he could have been with us, you know, fighting for the top half of the Premier League.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it comes down to, I mean, Allardyce leaving was the beginning of the end for us, and Allardyce got the best out of Defoe. Advocat didn't really know what to do with him, because he wanted a big physical striker, so he put Defoe on the left wing. He didn't really seem to fit into Poyet's system either, although he wasn't there with Poyet very long, so I'm certainly not saying anything negative about Poyet on that one. But Allardyce knew exactly what to do. Get a couple of quick players around him and say, get the ball into the box, because Defoe will score. And it worked. So, and in fairness, Moyes played to his strengths as well. It's just that the team around him wasn't as good. And Moyes wasn't and isn't as good as Allardyce. But he was, yeah, he'll always be loved here, Defoe.
Absolutely. So there's your team done and going along the bottom now. So that's a fantastic team. And also, you know, if you had to have a manager to take this team forward and fight for the top half of the Premier League and above, who would you go for?
That's Allardyce. I'd choose Allardyce. Any team he's ever managed, he just like. I think he's a genius, an absolute genius. Peter Reid did amazing things for us. No, you know, Peter Reid deserves so much praise, getting us from keeping us up in the second tier to the next season, getting us up. Although we went down in from the Premier League, he stayed, got us back up again at the second time of asking, came very close the first time. 7th in the Premier League. He was brilliant. But I just think that Allardyce I don't think there's anyone better than him. When we got him, I thought we were already relegated until we announced that he was our manager. And I thought, you know what, we've actually got a chance here. We might stay up because we've got Sam Allardyce. And what he does is he comes in and he's very good in the transfer market, right? But before that, he teaches defenders how to defend, right? So Patrick Van Aanholt was bought under Poyet and Lee Congerton. Very good signing for us, £1.5 million. But he probably was a £1.5 million defender. 7 or 8 months with Sam Allardyce, he was a £14 million defender, because Allardyce taught him how to defend, as well as giving him license to get up and attack. Use your pace and get forward. DeAndre Yedlin, he wasn't keen on DeAndre Yedlin at right back, but the situation with Emmanuel Eboué was a weird one. He couldn't sign Matthew Debussy either at right back, so he just made DeAndre Yedlin better. He made DeAndre Yedlin a Premier League right back, and he wasn't good enough until Allardyce got his hands on him, Went to Newcastle, he did very well at Newcastle and proved that he was a Premier League right back. He signed Kone for £5 million. 6 months later, we rejected £18 million for him. Not because he was an amazing player, but because Sam Allardyce turned him into an amazing centre-back. When Allardyce left, Kone didn't know what to do. So Kone ended up, we let him go for next to nothing because he couldn't do it without Allardyce. Allardyce taught him how to be a defender. And he got when Yunus Kabul first signed, God, he had a shocking start for us. Allardyce, why we sold him for £3 million, I'll never know. Allardyce turned him into one of the most solid centre-backs in the Premier League. He got the defence right. But not just that. He got midfielders who could control the game. Kirchhoff, Envila and Cattermole, all on the face of it look quite defensive, but all of them know how to play a beautiful forward pass. Their forward passes were going to two wingers with pace, either Barini and Watmore, Barini and Khazri and Watmore. There was pace out wide to give the ball to. And up front, he had a goal scorer in Jermain Defoe. And he got it right. It took him a bit of time to realise what was the right thing to do. And he did it. And the signings he made in January, really important to keeping us up. But I can't praise Sam Allardyce enough. I think he's the best manager. I think if you take away managers that have won the Premier League, he's the best manager the Premier League have ever had. And he's better than some of the managers who have won the Premier League. I can't ever win an argument to say that Sam Allardyce is better than Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger. I can't ever win that argument. But I probably, maybe Carlo Ancelotti, I probably could win an argument to say he's better than Roberto Mancini. I could definitely win an argument to say he's better than Manuel Pellegrini. But he is, I think he is the best that we've had, and I don't think we'll ever get anything better.
Yeah, it's fantastic to listen to you speaking, and everything everyone's ever like thinking. You know, you say it all there. Really, Sam Allardyce was a genius, and you know, for a sort of a manager, and everyone thought he's sort of old fashioned, but to use such like sports science in the way that he managed, and I remember right just being in school. And you know, everyone's saying to me, "Oh, there's no chance you're beating Newcastle, no chance you're beating Man United, you know, no chance you're beating Chelsea." And I just had all the confidence in the world that we were going to beat him because I had so much confidence in Sam Allardyce. You know, that just drive and determination. You know, it was probably I mean, I won't say the best time in the Premier League because obviously when we had Steve Bruce and we were up there in the top half of the table, you know, that was great. But it was the best little spell in the Premier League where I think I've ever seen. You know, I was absolutely fantastic, and Sam Allardyce, you know, was a massive part of that. And to see him go to England, obviously, again, as I keep saying with a few people in this episode, it's fair enough. You know, it was the only job that he would leave for, and you know as soon as he was you know sacked, really I was like, let's just get rid of Moyes and get Sam Allardyce back again, you know, that's what I really wanted. But you know, it's just a shame he hasn't come back really, and I think League One isn't a challenge that he's willing to sort of take on. But I mean, it's just so many what ifs really, isn't it, if we kept Sam Allardyce?
I think if the takeover by the Americans had happened you know, over a year ago, they wanted him. Whether or not he would have taken it, I don't know. But they wanted Allardyce, so there was a chance of him coming back. But he's never said whether he would, and I doubt he would have come to League One. But I mean, that dream's over now. We'll never have him back. But we'll never be able to get him back. Sorry, but I think, and I get really annoyed when people say, "Oh yeah, but." He plays boring football. But did you think it was boring when he was manager of us? Not at all.
Never.
It was always forward passing, get the ball forward. The fullbacks bomb forward. At least one of the midfielders, it was never Kirchhoff, but even Cattermole or Envila would get forward. You had Defoe, you had the other winger, and it was really, really good football to watch. Solid at the back, but also a threat going forward, which is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, and Allardyce is someone who will be remembered for a long time with that sort of short spell. And even when we brought Moyes in, I thought, we've actually still got a solid manager here, because it was just after, I think he had some time in Spain after leaving Man United. I
Yeah, it
can't
was
really.
Real Sociedad.
Yeah, and he came and I thought, that isn't a bad manager, because I remember him managing Everton, and just every time we played Everton, Everton smashed us every single time. And I thought, Moyes isn't a bad manager to have. Then the season starts, and then you realise, this isn't what we sort of hoped for, really.
When Moyes took over, I wasn't against. I mean, I wanted Allardyce, but he'd gone, and I thought, yeah, okay, Moyes will do well. I actually wanted Sean Dyche, but Sean Dyche would have meant paying compensation. David Moyes was out of work, so we went for David Moyes, and that was fine. I was not against it at all. But then £8 million on Gilabodji, who ended up being sacked. £13.6 million on Didier Ndong, who ended up being sacked. $7.5 million for Oviedo and Gibson combined. Well, Oviedo, I think we had to pay to leave. It actually quite well, though. Darren Gibson, sacked. Another one sacked. All of his signings. Donald Love, we had to pay him to leave. Fair enough, Paddy McNair, we got £5 million from him. I think we paid £5 million from him. We paid £5 million for him and Donald Love together. And I think Donald Love was actually free. I think it was £5 million for McNair, and they'll throw in Donald Love for free. I think that's what happened. I had to pay him to leave. So and then Stephen Pienaar, who was like, he was running on sand. Very good player in his day, but couldn't do it back then. Lescott came in and he didn't play him. So why did he sign him? He got it. There's no doubt that David Moyes is a good manager, but he did not show it for us, and his dealings in the transfer market. And he can't say he had no money to spend, because Gilabodji and Ndong just put together. He could have spent $6 million on Mvila, and the minute he signed, he would have been worth $20 million, because he was in the last 6 months of his contract. Why not pay the $6 million and have a £20 million player, rather than wait 6 months when it's too late and then we don't get the player at all, let alone for free? We don't get him at all. So David Moyes made too many mistakes. But like you, I wasn't disappointed when he got the job at all. I was just still disappointed that Allardyce had gone. And it took me a long time to get over Allardyce leaving, because I thought we were set. I thought that was it. We're only way is up with Sam Allardyce in charge. But unfortunately, England lost to Iceland, and we lost our manager.
Yeah, absolutely. And just when we finished the season with Allardyce, it was just now's the time relegation fights stop, and now's the time where we go up and push for the the top half of the Premier League. But yeah, I knew when Iceland scored that goal, I was like, well, Roy Hodgson's not going to stay in his job, and the next person they're going to get is going to be Allardyce. And as soon as he went, then that's the demise of Sunderland. That's why I find it so hard to support England as well. Like, I don't really support England that much when they play, because I just can't get over the Sam Allardyce thing. I just can't. I really can't.
Yeah, I still support England, because I'm English and very proud of that. So I do, but it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same pain when England lose than when Sunderland lose.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so we'll hopefully get a manager as good as Allardyce in the future, and we'll hope for someone like that. But yeah, so it's been great listening to your team, Tom, and the stories as well. We've been going a sort of a little bit over an hour now, which is absolutely fine. But it's fantastic to hear you speak. How have you found it?
Great fun. Yeah, I like going through the best 11, because sometimes I change it. Like I put Emmerson Thome in there rather than Craddock. Sometimes I have Steve Malbronk in there rather than one of the wingers. Sometimes I've bent over Defoe, but actually, no, I don't. I always have Defoe in there, but he could have got in there. Sometimes I have Macon or Bardsley over John Kay. So it's I quite like talking about the best ever 11s.
Yeah, it makes you realise actually that we haven't actually had such a bad history. We've actually had some really enjoyable times, and it's nice talking about that away from what's happening currently at the club in League One, really. But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. Tom, before we go, have you got a little message for Sunderland fans watching?
keep the faith. That's all I can ever say. That's all I can ever say. I wasn't particularly optimistic at the start of the season, to be honest, and I'm probably a little bit less optimistic now. But it's not over yet. There's enough games to go. We need to go on a run of wins, not a run of just not losing. We need a run of wins, and if we can get on that run of wins, the players will feel unbeatable and go into the game thinking we are going to win every game, and we might do. So that is why I'm saying keep the faith.
Absolutely, keep the faith. A lovely way to end it. And yeah, let's hope we can go on a run and go up the season. But yeah, I thank you everyone for watching. As always, video is in association with the Sunderland Food Bank and the Sunderland Fans Museum, so please go and check them out and help out as best you can. But yeah, thank you very much, Tom, for coming on, and we'll see you all in the next episode.